Hi everyone, tonight I'm making one of my favourite recipes that we do in food, and that is the lamb, pumpkin and halloumi gozleme. It's a Turkish recipe. First of all, we need to get the yeast going. So you need a sachet of yeast. Now I know this is hard to get at the moment. I actually got mine from an international global supermarket. So if you can't source it from Coles or Woolworths, try that. Okay, 8 grams. This is a 10 gram sachet, 10 grams is fine. Okay, into there, then 300 mils of warm water, just straight from the tap. Make sure the water's been running for a little bit first. And 300 mils, stir it around with a fork. And I'm also going to add 1 teaspoon of sugar. The sugar will feed the yeast and help that ferment and start activating a teaspoon of sugar. Also a pinch of salt, just a little bit into your hand. And just give that a stir and set that aside. I'll put that so you can see it. Now while that's fermenting, I'm going to get my other ingredients organised. So I need 3 cups of plain flour. So as always, measure accurately with a cup measurement and a scraper. And I'm going to put it directly into my mixing bowl with a sieve. So using a flat edge knife or spatula, scrape it off so it's level into the sieve. 1 cup. I'm just making a mess. It's okay. As long as you clean up your mess, it doesn't matter. And the 3rd cup. Just tap it down to get out any air pockets and then scrape it straight off. 3 cups into the sifter. So we sift. It helps make the flour nice and light and airy. It removes any lumps and makes sure that there's no wiggly things in there that we don't want in there. Okay, so we sift into a large bowl. No, 2 tablespoons of oil. The rest of the oil we'll use later. That can go into the bowl. 1 and 2. And for other recipes, if you're making flour, you probably want this to ferment for a little bit longer, but I'm going to put it in, and while it's proving, it will continue to multiply. Just add all that yeast mixture in. Use a butter knife to stir to combine. Don't put your hands in at this stage because it will just stick straight to your hands and it'll be really messy. Turn it onto the bench, preferably with a little bit of flour on it. And hopefully by now you all know how to knead properly. Tip that out. Okay, now I washed my hands before I began. 20 seconds, hot soapy water. Gave them a really good wash in between my fingers. Also wearing an apron. So always hygiene first whenever you're cooking. Hopefully that's all automatic for you. As you know, that's the first thing you do when you enter the classroom at school. Bring your dough together. Okay, fold it towards you, press it down, quarter of a turn, fold it towards you. And you need to knead this for about 5 minutes. Okay, so once it's a nice smooth dough like that, so when I was kneading it, folding it towards you, press it down, quarter of a turn. If you then flip it to that side, it's nice and smooth. Then just on a chopping board, cut it into 4. And just place into the bowl. And we let that prove for about 20 minutes. So this will make 4 gozlemes. Okay, so the next step is to get the filling ingredients ready. So I have 500 grams of lamb. I have 1 onion, which I need to finely dice. So cut off the tip, cut it in half, peel off the skin, those outer layers. and discard them into the bin. So try and clean up as you go so you don't leave a massive mess. Now you could grate the onion if you wanted to, if you're not confident with cutting. But what I do, cut it in half, leave that root tip on, and then just keeping your fingers curled out of the way, slice in one direction this way. And then cut the other way into a nice fine dice. And that root tip can just go straight into the bin. So with the other half, just dice it one direction, and then spin it around and just nice. Keep your fingers curled under, out of the way, and get rid of that. Okay, so that's the onion diced. Some spices. So we have a tablespoon of sweet paprika and 2 teaspoons of cumin. And you need a cup of grated pumpkin. So I have cut the pumpkin, removed the seeds, and just cut the skin just with the knife. Just cut that off. Then on the large side of the grater, just press down. Again, watch your fingers, the grater is really sharp. When you get to the end, if you've got a worm farm, pop that in the worm farm, or just put it into the bin. You can touch inside the grater, that's not sharp at all, and set that aside. You'll need that again in a minute. And just put the pumpkin in. You need about 1 cup of the grated pumpkin, uncooked. It'll get cooked in a moment. Okay, so my pan is nice and hot, and I've got a little bit of oil in there, so I'm just going to pop some onion in. You'll hear that nice sizzle, and we're just going to lightly fry off the onion till it becomes nice and translucent. So keep an eye on it. You don't want to burn it, you just want to soften it. Adjust that temperature. You should hear the sizzle, but not spitting at you. If it's not sizzling, turn it up a little bit. The paprika and the cumin, so I'll throw that in too. Okay, so cooking the spices helps really release the smell and the flavour. Slightly fry them off. Adjusting that temperature again because the sizzling has slowed right down. I need to grate my halloumi. So just it's a 180 gram pack. Just again on the large side of the grater, and a bit of pressure to grate that through. Now halloumi won't melt. It's a mild, salty, really, really yummy cheese, which will really add to the flavour of this gozleme. Okay, so the onion and the spices have cooked through. I'm now going to add the lamb all at once. And when that's brown, I'll then add the pumpkin, and then at the end stir through the halloumi. This lamb needs to cook for about 5 minutes. Okay, so my lamb is cooked now. It's nice and browned up, and the pumpkin goes in, and that just needs to heat through. So I'll stir that and just leave that to cook while I prepare my dough. So if you check this out, you can see how much it's risen. It's quite amazing. So even though I divided it into 4 pieces, I think I'm just going to have to tip it out and knock it down. A little bit of flour on the bench. Just knead it a couple of times. Chopping board from earlier. I did cut it into 4 before, but I'm thinking I might cut it into 6. Put the spare ones aside for now. And fold this into a little ball. And just roll this out into a nice big rectangle. Just Just keep an eye on the pumpkin and the lamb mixture. You want that pumpkin to collapse down a little bit. If you don't have a rolling pin, you can just use a glass inner thing. Just lift it up off the bench, make sure it's not sticking to the bench. Alright, then finally the cheese. Stir that through. And if you wanted to, you can also season it with some salt and pepper as well. Okay, now to assemble, just spoon the mixture onto the dough, onto one side, and then leave a bit of a border, fold it over, and then you can just seal the edges, just folding over and pressing it down. I'll just put some just straight in. You can measure it out, about a teaspoon of oil into the base of the pan. And then when that pan's nice and hot, you place the halloumi straight on there. Okay, straight onto there. And you cook both sides for about 2 to 3 minutes each side. And then here is the final product. And if you cut it in half, careful, it's very hot. You'll see the inside. Delicious. The other option is you can use 100 grams of spinach. You sprinkle that on the dough, and you use 200 grams of feta, grated. Sprinkle that on top. Fold it the same way, cook it the same way, and then you have a spinach and feta option as well, which is really good too. All right, enjoy, happy cooking, and stay safe.